Hey guys, we're back with another meal prep. We're in the middle of a high protein summer glow up meal prep series, and today I am keeping it really simple. I hardly have any dishes, which I love. In case you're wondering, first of all, why I'm wearing a hat, it's because I had to choose between meal prepping or washing my hair. I think we know what one. I'll be more grateful that I meal prepped over washing my hair. I know that for sure. I also just got my eyebrows microbladed, so I have like Vaseline over my eyebrows. I don't have any makeup on, so you are getting the real version of Melanie today, just saying. I have a crazy week ahead of me. I'm volunteering at my kids' school for this big event, so I want to get it done today, which is another reason why I look this way. I have not done anything with myself today, but I don't care, because I am going to take care of my meals, I'm going to take care of my health, I'm going to plan ahead, and I will be so glad that I did this. I know I will. On the menu today, we are making 3 protein options. I'm doing a lean grilled steak. I have a curry chicken salad, which is so good. And I'm also making an egg white frittata with cottage cheese, tons of protein. And then I'm doing a simple arugula salad as a side with a homemade dressing. So that's what we're making today. We're gonna have some really yummy, healthy options. And last week I asked for suggestions for what you guys were craving, or if you wanted any high protein specific meals that I could create. Somebody commented that they wanted a healthy wrap. So the chicken salad, I got you covered. You can use that in a wrap if you like. You could also put it on salad. You could put it on sourdough bread like I did today. There's just so many options with it, which is why I love it. So hopefully you guys enjoy today's meals. Again, as always, I have the full grocery list, which includes all of the recipes, the macros, the full breakdown. Everything is for you for free in the description below. Let's meal prep. First things first, we're gonna get ourselves organized before we begin meal prepping, because staying organized is one of the best things that you can do when you're meal prepping, just to make it easier on yourself. And then I'm gonna get my steak in a marinade right away. And because we're using a really lean cut of steak, it can be a bit tough if you don't let it sit in the marinade. So I have a marinade with some lemon juice and Dijon mustard, a little bit of olive oil, garlic powder, salt and pepper, really simple. And just depending on how much time you have, you can let that steak sit in the marinade in the fridge for a few hours, which is what I did. And then when you're ready to meal prep or you're ready to cook it, then you can put it on the grill and it's going to be really tender and juicy and delicious. However, if you are short on time, then just pour the marinade over it and let it sit on the counter at room temperature and it should be good to go. So the next thing we're gonna do is get our rotisserie chicken ready for our apple chicken curry salad. And I bought a rotisserie chicken because it's so convenient. If you wanna save yourself a lot of time, get yourself a pre-cooked chicken. We're just using the white meat. I prefer to use the white meat only because it's high in protein and low in fat. So we're gonna save ourselves a bunch of calories by only using the white meat. However, don't throw out the dark meat, feed it to your hungry children. Or of course you can still use dark meat if you like, but I prefer to use the white meat only. And fun fact about me, I love chicken. I think it's my favorite source of protein. And my husband as well. He grew up on a chicken farm with 10,000 chickens. Now that I've chopped up all of the chicken breast, I'm just gonna cover it and stick it in the fridge, and I will come back to that in a little bit. Now I'm just gonna lightly toast some pecans on a hot pan. It only takes a few minutes, but it really adds a lot of flavor, and it just makes your salad feel a little bit fancier and not a boring salad. So I wanted to work on these pecans before assembling my salad because they need a little bit of time to cool. So I've just set those aside, and in the meantime, I'm gonna go back and work on my apple chicken curry salad. Now I know I'm calling it a salad, but it's really just a big bowl of pre-cooked chicken and different ingredients, so it can be added in so many different ways. So I don't want you to feel like we're making 2 types of salads here today, because I feel like the chicken is more like a meal and the arugula salad is more like a side dish, if that makes sense. And now I'm gonna work on my high protein dressing. This dressing is packed with protein. I've also added a little bit of mayonnaise because I feel like mayonnaise really adds a nice flavor, and I didn't want it to just be Greek yogurt. So I added a little bit of mayo and also some red wine vinegar. And then I have a curry powder here, so I'm adding a little bit of that and also some turmeric. How do you pronounce it? Is it turmeric? I don't know if I'm saying that right. Anyways, you get the gist. So I have some salt and some pepper as well, and I'm giving everything a stir until it looks like this. And now all I'm doing is pouring it on top of all of my chopped ingredients. I'm giving a really good mix. And I was actually a little concerned that my apples would start to brown, but they didn't at all. This has lasted me already a few days in my fridge and it's stayed exactly the same. So this is such a great meal prep option. And I also love that you can use it in so many different ways, like I mentioned before. So here I am just putting it on a wrap. My husband actually came home from work today and stopped by for some lunch. So I'm glad that I worked on this because I was able to make him a quick wrap. And I also want to mention, if you have hard-boiled eggs, that would taste so good with this chicken salad. I highly recommend adding in some eggs if you have them. If not, it tastes great just the way that it is. Now I'm going to start on the egg white frittata. And this frittata has extra protein because instead of using a regular cheese, I decided to just use cottage cheese in this recipe. I think everybody knows that cottage cheese is an amazing source of protein, and also egg whites are so high in protein, although I'm not the biggest fan of egg whites on their own, but if I add a bunch of other ingredients with the egg whites, I find that it tastes great, and I always feel really good after eating a nice light meal like this. So it's up to you if you want to use this as a breakfast option or a lunch option. It pairs really nicely with the arugula salad, but it's also a really easy quick snack if you just want to heat it up for a snack. For your reference, I cut this into 4 large slices, and one slice is 120 calories and it has over 20 grams of protein, very low in fat, so it's just a really light, healthy, high protein snack or breakfast or even a lunch. And if you want to avoid any extra liquid in your frittata, you can always pre-cook some of these veggies to evaporate or cook off some of the extra liquid. I did add more than my recipe called for in terms of veggies, so mine was a little bit wetter than I expected, so it just took longer to cook. I didn't mind, but if you follow the recipe as I have it written, you should be totally fine, but just know that you want to bake it until the center is no longer jiggly, so just give it a little bit of extra time if it needs it. I'm just using a standard pie dish and I've just greased it with a little bit of butter. I'm putting it in the oven at 375 and I'm setting my timer for 35 minutes. Mine took closer to 45 minutes and then I'm just letting it rest so it can fully set, and I will cut it up once it's cooled. I love making egg whites as well, like I have in some of my other meal prep videos, but some days I just feel like I'm running out of ideas of what ingredients to use with my eggs. So if you have any recommendations, leave me a comment below because I'd love to hear what you guys are enjoying. A simple way to clean up your eating or just cut back on some extra calories or ingredients that aren't good for you is by swapping out your dressings and your sauces and making your own at home. If you're anything like me, you are thinking about summer, you're dreaming about hanging out by the pool or maybe going to the beach, and you really want to look your best this summer. I think a lot of us think that in order for us to change our body or to transform, we have to make these massive changes. And while that might be true in part, I honestly think that making little changes and sticking to them long term, that's where you're gonna see the biggest results. Not only is it easier to stick to when you make changes slowly, it's just easier to do and it's more sustainable. Things like making your own homemade salad dressing instead of buying store-bought dressings, swapping out that glass of wine that you might have during the week and instead having a bubbly or a sparkling water instead, saving that glass of wine for the weekends because, girls, I love wine too. I'm not giving up everything, but I'm just enjoying those things in moderation now, and I'm finding balance, which I also think is really important for your own enjoyment in life. You don't have to cut out every bad thing in your life, but it's important that you make consistent, healthy choices, and over time, it's gonna compound, and these are changes that are gonna last. Okay, I've said my 2 cents on a transformation and sticking to little changes. Now I'm gonna get back to the meal prep, and I think this salad is pretty self-explanatory. The only thing I wanna mention is I used a light goat cheese instead of a full-fat goat cheese, and I really enjoyed this salad with the balsamic dressing. Now I'm heading out to the grill and I'm just making sure the grates are nice and clean, and then I'm adding a little bit of oil to the grate so that the steak doesn't stick. So once the grill is preheated, I'm taking my steak, which has been sitting in that marinade. I'm making sure that I'm letting some of that marinade drip off so it's not too wet. Otherwise you can get some flare-ups on the barbecue. And I'm just searing it on each side for a few minutes. It's gonna depend on the thickness of your steak, how long you cook it for, and also how you like it done. I like mine to be a little bit pink in the inside, so I found like 3.5 to 4 minutes per side was perfect. And then I'm just slicing it against the grain into long strips. And then when I'm ready to eat this, I like to eat it with the arugula salad, but you could also throw this inside of a wrap as well, or you can just snack on it like you would a turkey stick. I don't know if that's weird or not, but that's something that I do personally. Does anyone else just grab a piece of meat and start chomping on it throughout the day? Am I the only weirdo here? I don't know. Anyways, here you have it, a simple steak that is low in fat, super high in protein, and don't forget to pour those extra juices on top to keep everything nice and moist. When it's time to store your containers, the way that I do it, since I'm a stay-at-home mom, it's really easy for me to just plate my meals on the fly. I don't typically take meals with me on the go, so I like to package everything in its own container, but you could definitely make your own meals and just portion them that way. But I just find that this is the easiest way for me since I'm home. For those of you who may be counting calories, or you like to know specifics, like you want to know how much fat, how much protein, how much carbs are in each of these dishes per serving, I have done the work for you, so I've included that in that free document, so make sure you get a hold of that. It is in the description below. And also, it would mean the world to me if you're enjoying this video, or even if you're not, would you leave me a comment letting me know if I should keep going with this summer glow up meal prep series? And while I just get myself a snack in here, I'm just gonna kindly ask you to subscribe to my channel. That really sounded really awkward and weird. That is not, why am I in my fridge? I don't even know what I'm doing right now. Okay, we're not gonna do this.